Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. We're doing some breathing exercises. Myself and Jim Lee and Deb Hartley from Prudential Utah Real Estate, and we should let's one more nice deep breath. I think we should. Cleansing breath. That's nice. That's really nice.
Hi, Joe.
You know what? We've had a cleansing breath in the world of real estate, really, haven't we?
Yes.
Indeed.
Things have changed a lot.
Indeed. Trends are starting to evolve out there.
I like this. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What is the trend?
Well, the first trend probably is the increase in demand. Buyers are coming out of the woodwork now. They're out there looking. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we couldn't find them. They couldn't find us. And now they're all over it. They're in the market. They're back.
They're eager.
They're eager. Exactly.
I think buyers are tired of listening to things like sequestration, fiscal cliff, Obamacare. They're just tired of what the world's going to do, and they're beginning to act on their own.
Pent-up frustration is what we hear a lot.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, I am ready to move.
Come on up to Park City,
I
Joe.
am so ready to move. Yeah, I've just got to find the right thing, which I think is what most people are in that same situation. Would you say, I think this is a fair assessment, that we have a balanced market right now as far as real estate is concerned?
Well,
is it's hard to tell.
We're almost bordering on a seller's market again.
Are we? Okay, that's the exciting part.
On a seller's market because Ryan, are our graphs up? We've got some graphs, and thank you so much. So you can see in this graph that the demand is very, very strong.
Okay.
So on the next graph, you'll see that our inventory is way depleted.
Yeah, and it's based on a 9.7 month supply. Is that right?
Exactly. So I mean, if you put all the inventory in the hopper, we only have about a little less than 10 months of inventory left.
The lowest since 2007, it says.
Can you believe it?
Oh my goodness! No.
So where we were back in in the
7 years
when the market
ago.
was at the bottom,
or 6 years ago.
So what that's creating is more of a seller's market because there's little inventory, there's higher demand, lower supply. So what does that do to prices?
Yeah, it brings our prices up.
Brings them back up.
Yeah, we're definitely not. We're going away from balance. So we were probably balanced when we hit bottom, weren't we?
Well, we were closer to balance.
Close?
Now, here's the good news: is although prices are starting to creep up. Next slide, Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That they're only up about a little less than 8% from last year.
Okay.
So
that's a good thing. So that, in other words, we're not pricing people out of being able to buy.
That's right. So when people come to me and say, or to us and say, Deb or Jim, we're looking for a really great deal, we're telling them, hurry, buy now.
Right.
Because as the inventory continues to shrink, that's a precursor to obviously prices going up.
Wow. And of course the big thing that stands consistently through this is the Fed keeps keeping the interest rate low.
Right.
Which is huge.
That helps.
We will. I know I will not see it again in my lifetime. I doubt you will see it ever again in your lifetime at this price. So it doesn't matter where you are, purchase something now because real estate is always, it's a trend, but it's on its way back up.
You know, I've heard, and I think it's completely bunk. I've heard people that have poo-pooed the idea of real estate as an investment, and every person that I talk to who actually purchases real estate as an investment does so very well. So I'm a believer that that's the case.
So here's an interesting thought or interesting concept. Our market's really hot in vacant land right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. My next purchase will be is a piece of property where I want it.
As Will Rogers said, buy dirt. They're not making any more.
That's brilliant.
So when the vacant land goes away and the spec market is, firing back up, there's very little lots to build on. This is the perfect opportunity to buy.
All right.
Yeah, the stars have lined up really well. Really well. And you mentioned investment and your interest in investment. Well, the investor left our market for a number of years.
Right.
And the investor has returned. So that's what's helped increase demand.
Well, that tells you something.
Totally.
If you follow, I always say follow the guy who makes all the money. And so I'm a Warren Buffett guy. I'll follow Warren Buffett wherever he goes.
Exactly.
So if guys like him start spending money on this, then obviously it makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I love this principle, and I forget who's this one. I think it was Donnie Deutsch, I'm not sure. But he says the #1 rule in investing is don't lose money. Right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, that's rule #1 investing, and
Right.
it makes sense.
Sure.
If you're in it, you know, try not to take any risk if you can.
So what I find really interesting, just in this week's market, you know, the stock market's over the top.
Yeah.
So housing prices are starting to go up, and so where do you see? You see buyers jumping in at the top.
Right.
And people like, you know, well, obviously none of us are Warren Buffett kind of people, but Warren
Right.
Buffett is absorbing everything at the bottom.
Right.
So you're right, follow Warren Buffett's.
Well, I mean, this is the same. If you look at this, I mean, the trend wouldn't be very dissimilar from what we had in the early '90s, in the Clinton era, when and remember, Donald Trump was almost broke then,
That's exactly,
and he
yes.
bought back up just like he'd done 20
That's
years
right.
prior to
Right.
that.
Right.
He bought back into all. He bought, you know, he bought stuff that nobody would want.
Right.
It's the very lowest stuff. But he turned it into something again, and he became rich
Right.
again,
Yeah. Again.
which so many people like this do.
Yeah.
It makes good sense, I think, at this point to consider the investment side of it, certainly.
Sure.
You know, so yeah, of course, for me, that's going to be something I want to do
Right.
for sure.
So two more points in our presentation this week is distressed sales.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm
for it,
I'm
Jim.
really interested in distressed sales because that was something that many people, when they thought of investing, that would be the first thing. Oh, well, sure, I'll do that. I'll buy a distressed property.
And distressed sales we define as short sales and bank foreclosures.
Right.
Now, it's not necessarily a seller who's feeling a lot of pressure. That's a different kind of distressed sale. Okay.
Right.
But we're talking those sales that are either short sales or foreclosures.
And there's a lot less of them.
A lot less. We're down to I think maybe a third of what we were last year.
Wow.
So the people out there waiting for those particular properties have fewer and fewer to choose from, and less options out
Right.
there for them to move on. So
There was a school of thought as we were coming out of this that there was going to be a plethora of shadow inventory,
Right.
and that just never came to pass.
Right.
I mean, you can certainly find you know, if you go to Florida, you might be able to find that possibly, but anywhere else.
Interestingly, you know, those markets that really suffered, Las Vegas and Phoenix, they're coming back with a
Right.
vengeance right now.
See, that
And
makes
California is just on fire.
Wow.
In more ways than one. 'cause
I
there's a
bet we
forest fire
probably
there.
find the same trend in Florida right about now.
You
Would
probably
be my guess.
Yes.
And that's a concern because if things come back too quickly, we may be in the same spot we were a couple of years ago.
Right.
So a gradual comeback. Everybody wants to be back where we were.
Yeah.
And right away. And the longer we take, the slower we go to that point,
The
the
better.
better.
The
really.
better.
Well, you know, that's kind of interesting because, you know, there's so many, you see so many politicians wanting that. We've got to do this faster.
Yeah.
And a slow growing economy, you know, it seems to be a good thing. You know, you don't cook over a fire, you cook over coals, right?
Right.
So maybe that's a good
point.
point, right? But the thing that I think was most interesting, and I think your timing is so apropos on this, is that Ben Bernanke last week, giving his testifying with Congress, said that he found himself defending keeping the interest rates low. This is the first time he's ever had to do that
Right.
in the last 4
Yeah.
or 5
5
years. So I think at the very least this speaks volumes, and the point being that he's not going to be able to defend it forever. At some point
Yeah.
they're going to have to start going the other
gonna
way,
have to
and it's
go
not
back up.
far.
So
away.
that's where, you know, you've got your first-time buyer, you've got your investor, whomever, and I'm telling my clients, look, I'm going to take off my realtor hat and put on my friend hat.
Yeah.
Buy now, because the interest rates are not going to, they're not going to be here. I mean, in 5 years, what you want to buy today, your dollar won't be able to buy it.
Well,
Or your
I'm
loan
putting
will
on
be able to
my
buy it.
friend hat to our guests watching the show right now and saying this. It is so easy for us to look back and say, I really wish someone had told me. We're telling you. Okay, listen. It's not going to happen. Yeah, we can wrap it up in a package, deliver it with a bow, but we're telling you right now. Get out and buy it at the right time.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
awesome.
Exactly.
Well, guys, as always, I so appreciate
Yeah.
you being here and sharing the
Thanks, Jeff.
information because, you know, you do want somebody to tell you that. I wish somebody had told me in 1988, don't spend that money on a date. You know, that $3,000 I spent on high school dating, I could have bought a piece of property right here in Park City on Main Street for, you know, that back then, $30,000 would buy you a place on Main. I really
train
screwed
left the
up.
station, Joe.
Yeah. So where were you then? Right? But we're here now, so we're telling you. And if somebody wants more information, then contact you out.
Absolutely. You can certainly reach us at 435-647-8009. So
All right.
we'll have a little tag going up.
There you go. Prudential Utah Real Estate.
A pleasure.
Deb
Thanks,
Hartley,
Joe.
as always.
My pleasure.
So happy to have you here.
Good to see you.
All right. Well, there is more coming up on the Mountain Morning Show. We'll be wrapping things up. Chelsea and I will be right after these messages. Go grab a cup of Joe and come right back.